A killer sat at the table, and nobody saw him, because the murder weapon was the food. This is the story of a murder so cold, so calculated, that the weapon left no wounds, no trace, and no suspicion. A dish served warm on a silver platter that carried death colder than ice. Tonight, we're uncovering the coldest murder, the deadly dish that hid the perfect poison. Centuries before forensics, fingerprints, or toxicology, the dining table was the most dangerous place in the world. Kings, queens, nobles, everyone feared the same thing, a meal that tasted perfect, but killed without warning. And one poison did this better than any blade. In medieval Europe, murder was loud. Swords, daggers, battles, blood. But assassins learned something far more elegant and far more terrifying. Why fight a man when you can let his dinner kill him? Poison became the silent weapon of the ambitious. And among all poisons, one rose above the rest. Cold, colorless, tasteless, unforgiving. Arsenic, known as the powder of succession. Because whoever you served it to, you succeeded. It was called cold poison because victims didn't burn, didn't swell, didn't choke. They simply faded, as if nature itself had taken them. Perfect murder, hidden beneath perfect food. But one murder would shock the world. A killing so flawlessly disguised that for centuries, many believed it was just tragedy. Italy, 1478. Florence, a city of silk, gold, power, and enemies hiding behind every curtain. A nobleman, wealthy, influential, respected, sat for what seemed like an ordinary banquet. A feast with friends, music in the hall, wine flowing like water. On the table sat a dish he loved, a sweet, delicate almond custard, smooth, creamy, fragrant. But almonds had a second scent, a dangerous twin, bitter almond. The smell of cyanide. His custard had been laced, not with arsenic this time, but with the poison of choice for assassins who wanted death fast and suspicion slow. Cold cyanide, hidden in almond desserts where its flavor blended perfectly. The nobleman ate. He smiled. He lifted his cup, and then he collapsed. Guests froze, servants screamed. Doctors rushed in, but no one thought murder. Why would they? The dish smelled like almonds. It always smelled like almonds. And cyanide leaves a body looking almost peaceful, like sleep, with a broken clock inside. By morning, the powerful man was gone. And the suspects? All smiled politely, all walked away free. Cyanide was the cold killer because it shut down the body from the inside without leaving a trace on the outside. It stopped cells from using oxygen, as if someone turned off the flame of life. Symptoms came fast: breathlessness, confusion, collapse. But to a medieval doctor, it looked like heart failure, or stroke, or exhaustion. The poison dissolved into nothing. No smell, no color, no residue, and in a dessert made with almonds? The bitter almond scent was invisible. This wasn't murder. It was chemistry wearing a chef's hat. But who used this method best? Enter the Italian families whose names still echo through history, the Borgia. The Medici, they believed power had a recipe, and it started in the kitchen. The Borgias used arsenic, sprinkled like sugar. They called it la cantarella, sweet, white, deadly. The Medicis preferred cold cyanide in desserts. A fruit tart here, a custard there, a little powdered apricot seed. No weapon, no struggle, just a final breath. Dinner wasn't just dinner, it was politics. Guests at royal banquets ate cautiously. Servants tasted food first. Wine was shared only after switching cups, because everyone knew you were just one meal away from losing everything. The most infamous case came from France. King Charles VI, a ruler already slipping into madness, loved a particular dish, pear compote, sweetened with almond paste. During a political crisis, an advisor who needed the king out of the way arranged for a banquet, and the king, weak, distracted, exhausted, ate his favorite dessert. Hours later, he collapsed. His death wasn't immediate, but his decline began that night, and whispers spread. Someone poisoned the king. Too cold, too quiet, too perfect. But there was no proof. There never would be. Because cold poisons leave no fingerprints, just empty thrones. Here's the chilling part. They didn't even understand the chemistry. But they knew the effects. Cyanide came from crushed apricot seeds, peach pits, and bitter almonds, all common ingredients in royal sweets. Arsenic was sold as a pest control powder in every apothecary in Europe, and both worked because Tasteless, odorless, dissolved beautifully. Mimicked natural death, blended into desserts perfectly. The coldest poison was the one you couldn't sense. It didn't burn, it didn't sting, it didn't warn. It simply waited inside the dish. Everything changed in the 1800s. Chemistry advanced, toxicology emerged. Doctors learned how to detect arsenic in the body. Cyanide detection came later. But once science exposed the invisible killer, the era of death by dessert finally ended. Poisoners had nowhere to hide. Royal kitchens were no longer battlefields. And food became food again. Not a loaded weapon, but history remembers. Every time dessert is served on silver, every time almond aroma fills a room, it reminds us of the centuries when a single bite could decide the fate of kingdoms. So, what made this murder the coldest? Not the poison, not the plot, not the dish, but the fact that the victim smiled, trusted, and believed they were safe, right up until the moment the poison melted into their blood. The perfect murder was the one that tasted sweet, the dish that hid death better than any dagger ever could. This was the coldest murder, the dish that hid the perfect poison.
If you want more dark stories of food, power, and history, you know what to do.
Like, subscribe, and prepare for the next bite.